All right.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this deep dive on religious identity and the role it plays in the Indian wheel of power and powerlessness. We are the Listeners Collective, a multidisciplinary team of mental health and social justice professionals. Our aim is to foreground an intersectional lens in all mental health interventions. The Indian Wheel of Power and Powerlessness is an adaptation of the original Wheel of Power and Privilege by Sylvia Duckworth. This month and potentially the next month, we're also looking at religious identity and its contribution to experiences of power and powerlessness in the context of well-being. And for this today, we invite Shakeeb to be part of our conversation. Shakeeb, could you please tell us a little bit more about yourself, please?
Hi everyone, I'm Shakeeb Ahmed Khan. I have been development since last 12 years, mostly in the areas of disability and inclusion. I graduated as a psychotherapist, did my master's and did my PhD, and I work with organizations, with international non-governmental organizations, along with UN agencies like the Volunteers and World Health Organization to support people with disabilities for their rehabilitation and inclusive services. So I work apart from this with Catholic organizations in India. To us, I always believe that Catholic organization reach to the people who are at the last mile, have that angle of compassion care, especially to the people who have been systemically marginalized. Especially people living with HIV, people with leprosy, people with disabilities who have been not been adequately taken care by both government and other non-government organizations. This is about it.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing that, Shakeeb. I think it's very inspiring to hear the work that you've done and also the expertise that you bring to these conversations, with your PhD. And it's also very refreshing to hear your perspective on, just the contribution of Catholic sisters to development. Like, I think you're very right. They were forerunners to development in the country. Could you share a little bit more about your experience working with the Catholic sisters?
Yeah, I mean, always moved by working seeing the work of Catholic sisters. They did extend, they do, and they continue to extend the services to the most poor and most marginalized and people who are in margin, who are at the margins, in various geographical locations, various difficult regions, whether it is rural, tribal, conflict zones, and the places where the other services, even the government services, are not reachable. I remember I was working in Manipur, which was very close to the Myanmar border, as a rehabilitation professional, and I was very surprised. Even at that location, difficult terrain, I could see Catholic sisters working for the various sections of the society who needed support, who needed compassionate care. And I owe this, I felt a sense of, I do feel working with them is also the reason for, due to sense of gratitude towards them, what they have been doing across the country. Their compassionate care is unmatchable. For example, if you see issues like HIV, disability, this has come to government's notice maybe since last 20, 30 years. But it has been Catholic systems and Catholic organization, Catholic sisters who have been working for them. When people have abandoned them, when people have turned out their backs on them, they are for such stigmatized condition. So they have been taking care, providing compassionate care to them. People with leprosy, people with disabilities, people who need support in very difficult, dying conditions, who have been abandoned, destitute. So world humanity owes, I believe, especially the Indian in India, we owe to the Catholic sisters for the work they have been doing in India. And I have been really moved with them, with what they have been doing. And I was so fortunate to work with a few of the Catholic organizations in the past, who have been working in disability, health affairs, working in health. And recently, I was working with one of the Catholic organizations that works for the Catholic sisters across India, which is supported by one of the foundation in USA, which has its interest in hospitality and hotel business. So I am very fortunate to work with them.
That is brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing, Shakeeb. I think it's such a hope to see people of different identities come together for this mission. Could you share your experience of like how you might be perceived as a Muslim man working with Catholics sisters towards this shared mission? Like, what's been your experience? Has your religious identity come into play in any context?
Yeah, till very long time it has been going on well so far. But a recent incident has little struck me and it shaken me, and it actually jolted me. Recently, I was told by one of the organizations that I work for, Catholic Sisters. There's one of the largest network of Catholic sisters in India, and they have been working for the other Catholic sisters who need elderly care supports and mental health care support. So I've been working for this organization since last 6 months. Things were going on well. But however, during one of the recent discussion in a meeting that we were having, the head of the organization called me and told me, Shakeeb, some of the sisters are taking objection uh, because of your Muslim identity. And I was a little surprised what it could be. I mean, I'm a person who has been working here because of my education qualification and my experience and my past, and my also my devotion and dedication for this cause. So she's the head of the organization. She said a section of the sisters from one geographical state in South, they felt in current context when there is so much so-called love jihad is going on, why a Muslim man should be working for the Catholic sisters. And it's and they think it could be my presence could will not be an ideal thing for them, especially when Catholic sisters. I mean, they felt it should not have. So they felt Muslims' presence is not needed in this current organization. So as I said, I was very surprised, jolted, and I felt very upset. The such thing could be sent, especially when I am so committed for this cause. But the organization president, she was compassionate. She told me, you can still continue, but you can't have a visible face in the organization. You can't attend the webinars, and you can't be in the emails communication or in the publications. And it's like you will be there. You can still contribute, but not in the. You can't be have your name associated with the organization. That can lead to a problem. So that is very upsetting. Being a person who admire Catholic sisters so much, but I felt this is actually a non-discrimination and it goes against the teaching of Christianity, which calls for non-discrimination and compassion for everybody, not for the Christian community, but it is for, I believe, the teachings of all the religion, especially the Christianity, is also for everyone. So that affected me, and I felt very upset. It saddens me, and I felt I'm just reduced to one identity, in spite of all my work, my PhD, my publications, my previous work with Catholic sisters, but now I feel I'm just reduced to one Muslim identity. And this is, it should not happen in a country. We know this is a little difficult time being a Muslim. Being a Muslim is much more difficult. We do hear a lot of stories of discrimination, visible discrimination. We hear of a lot of discrimination of physical violence against Muslims because of their identity, because of their food habits, because of their political stand. And although I never had this directly, but this was a very direct thing that affected me and affected both my mental and physical health.
So sorry to hear that, Shakeeb. Thank you so much for sharing with us. I think what you said towards the end that, the country is going through a difficult time now. Could you share a little bit more on that? Like, because you've shared the positive experiences you've had up until now in your career. So what do you think is changing? Like, how is this changing now, just in the current context? Like,
I mean, although things, if you see in the current context, that's well documented across by many reports, the Muslims are facing a lot of challenges when it comes to their identities. They face discrimination in terms of getting a house in certain localities, getting sometimes jobs are difficult. People ask. We see a lot of calls for the economic boycott, which is very, very, I would say, frustrating and saddening. These such things are happening. Although I'm very hopeful things will improve. It's not here. It's maybe a phase that we all are going through. But things, I mean, I do believe in the Indian constitutions as well as the judiciary that are very symbol of our believe that is symbol of a social justice in the country. However, I had a feeling that in this current time, in this current context, there are certain people who are with us, and one of them are Catholic organizations who are been supportive of people who are facing discrimination and who are marginalized. They are the champion of the people who need who actually needs the support and who for whom they support people who there is nobody to support. So I felt they are just like true allies. The Catholic organization continues to support not only and they continue to support so many institutions here, provide education where Muslim students are also get access to a good education, job opportunities, employment. So these things are very much appreciated of the Catholic organization. There is no doubt they have been doing this very well in India, not only for Muslims, for everyone who needs organizations are known for their quality education, quality healthcare for the most marginalized sections.
Absolutely. I know this question is a bit sensitive, but can I ask how this has potentially impacted, like, how do you feel, how has it impacted your personal or professional confidence or well-being, like, when it happens to you personally, but also when these things keep happening in the society, like when you hear things like love jihad, which I don't think it was in our vocabulary a few years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it did, the first few days was very shocking and I couldn't come out of the trauma. There's something that can happen. I couldn't believe I did hear that word. I thought, yeah, I mean, these things we do hear in the media, both in electronic and print media. These things people are being accused of something that is not actually real. Okay, but and this is continues to be used as a propaganda as a tool to spread hate. But when I heard on first time, people tell me because of my presence, I shouldn't be in the organization because a Muslim person being there can have something like love jihad in the organization. That was very depressing. I mean, as I said, it just put me in a lot of mental trauma and mental distinctly. How can I be called for such things? And it definitely affected me, and it affected me physically also. So I felt a lot of anxiety, and I couldn't sleep also. Okay, it's an organization that was so committed for the cause, and this thing happened. So yeah, that was very something very. But then I decided that I can't be. I had to go on. This is necessary. Okay, fine. Sometimes you are not. You can't. Sometimes organization may not be inclusive. At least I didn't expect this will be the case. But since it is not, I have to move on and I have to go apply for other organization for other positions. But it did affect my confidence, level of confidence. I was always worried, okay, what's something people question? I mean, I'm trying to getting a job in the organizations, which may not be so inclusive. Okay, at least in Catholic organization, I understand they are very inclusive in nature. They don't discriminate. Organizations which are okay secular by nature, but you may never know what they may not be. What if I face the similar incidents here? What if people ask me, tell me indirectly, no, we can't take a Muslim now because other staff may object, or we may face challenge. So that is a real that actually I felt less of confidence in applying for the interviews and positions, different interviews that I have faced. So yep, this has overall has a impact which I won't say is which I would say is a very pleasant, and as I said, it affected mentally and physically.
Absolutely. And I also see how this affects the entire system, because you're clearly a very qualified person, and you being in a position like this does allow for, positive impact for a lot of people. And now that's also getting detrimented, right? So thank you so much for sharing that. I think the last question that I have for you is just, what do you wish allies knew? And what do you think in this position, the head of the organization, what could they have done? What should they have done?
Yeah, I mean, see, we work in a development sector, and development sector is known for its principles of inclusion, for its principle of accepting diversity and pluralism. It believes we all are equal and we don't discriminate on the basis of our, whether it's our religious identity, whether it's our caste identity, whether it's our racial identity, whether it's our gender identity, or whether it's our sexual orientation. Okay, we believe we are in we work on this. Uh, we work on this aspect, but when such things happen in this development sector, it just like it's something I would say is iron. It should not happen. I can understand it. I mean, I could say, okay, if something happens in corporate sector, I would have still said, okay, or some, but if something happens like this happening non-governmental organization development sector, it is certainly not acceptable. And I would be very happy in future if organization really mean they stands for their principles. The organization that I work with, they had this mention of their values, non-discrimination in their organization charter, or what we said, trust deed. But when it really comes, when you have to stand by your values, you should not succumb to the pressure. You should say, no, this is not what we stand for. We can't discriminate basis of the person's identity, or the person's religion, no matter what. And this should have been the core thing. We are different from a profit-making organization. For us, our values are dear to us. For us, we should stand for our values, and we should hold our values more stronger when times are difficult. It should not be when times it's difficult, we say no, we have to compromise it. then it leaves us with no difference between a non-profit, a development sector organization, and or a profit or capitalist organization. So this is what I feel. I think this should have been a little difference. People should stand up for the values. Yeah, and our allies are mostly people who I feel who should stand for on the right side of something when we are seeing something going wrong. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing, Shakeeb. Is there anything else that you want to share with us before we close the interview?
Thank you, Lakshmi.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks everyone.
The last part I'm not able to
Oh,
hear.
No, that's totally fine. I just asked if there's anything else that you want to share with us before we close this interview.
Sorry.
Anything else? No, if there's anything else that you want to share with us before we close the interview.
Yeah, I mean, see, my story is just a small part. It is not that what I had experienced. I believe many people may or may not have experienced in the current context. But what I want to say is it's very, in a difficult time, it is very important to stand for what is right and what is wrong, adhering to our values. My experience was maybe just a small incident, but I do feel many people face a lot more than that because of their, whether it's caste identity or their religious identity or whether their sexual orientation. Okay, but I do feel this should not happen in social sector, at least.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing, Shakeeb, and also for taking this time. Thank you.